actually worth it. We hear, we see, we cannot go, not see it in our lives here. And so on this week's episode, I will be sitting down with Chasta Hamilton. Oh my gosh, the author of Trash the Trophies. And we are going to dive into a candid conversation about her personal journey to move away from the competitive dance scene. And this conversation is something that I think we need to have an open dialogue about. It's something that we've seen people have very strong opinions on, and very strong opinions about the way that they're seeing the competition industry moving forward. And so if you're joining us, say, hey, what's up? Let us know that you're here. I want to know who is with us as we are coming on and doing this live. This is a conversation, and so we want to know your thoughts and what you're thinking and how you're feeling, so we can, continue this conversation, because it's not just about us, it's about our industry as a whole. And so if you want to get a copy of today's show notes, just drop the word competition below, and we will send those over to you as well. And if you're new here, I'm Erin Burd, and I support dance studio owners and educators to really grow their businesses by creating their own unique vision of success without the burnout, the overwhelm, or sacrificing your personal lives. Because the truth of the matter is, you can have it all. You just have to decide that it is possible. And so if you know someone who needs to hear this conversation, or might be sitting on the fence, feel free to sprinkle the love. And if you're coming in on the replay, I want to know that as well. So you can drop a hashtag replay, and we will both come back on in and continue the conversation with you as you are coming in. So if you're joining us, hello. I'm seeing some competition. Windsor, Ontario, Move Performing Arts. We're so glad to have you here. I want to know, say hello to us here. So y'all, I have to bring in my friend Chasta, because here's the deal. If you don't know her, she is the author of Trash the Trophy. She is the artistic director and owner of Stage Door Dance Productions, and she has been on the forefront of really reinventing the dance education model by really focusing on the technique, the confidence, the community, right? And really all of those wonderful pros that we see from dance, how do we reinforce those? And so I am going to invite her to join us here, so we can go ahead and have this conversation. Hello, we have some friends coming. Yay, you're here. Hello. I'm so glad that you're here. Let me make sure to unmute you. Yay. Okay.
Good morning or afternoon. It's noon here. It's 9 there. Good day. Good morning, afternoon.
Yeah, it's a good day.
It's recital season. Do we even know what day or time it actually is?
That is a true story. With recital season, competition season, end of the year season, for if, like I was just telling her, like my kiddos are crazy bananas with all their end of year school activities. And so we know this year is a busy time of year. So we are so glad to have you here with us while we have that this conversation. And so do you want to, let's just dive right in, because I know that you see them. I see them. I am in lots of Facebook groups on social media for our industry. We have our own here, and Teach Preschool Dance is one of the places this is being streamed at. But we see the posts about competition season, and some of the drama that might go along with it, some of the unrealistic expectations that parents have or the students have, and also maybe sometimes expectations that aren't met by us as the studio owners, directors, teachers on the side of the competition and what they're doing. And so I would love for you to share with us kind of a little bit about what you saw happening in your own studio and how you kind of decided to make the move away from it, because that in itself, I know, brings so much fear and a lot of scariness around it. And
Mhm.
so I would love for you to share with us kind of what was the catalyst for you and what made you really say, I need to make a change because for me, this isn't working.
Yeah. So obviously this has become a huge part of our journey. And, I when we did it because I was like, I cannot keep running the dance studio in the way that it was going. And to set the scene and to set the time, I opened the studios in 2009. I started feeling this just like discontent surrounding the competitive dance experience around 2013, 2014, but committed to watching it for 2 years to see if it would change or shift. And with that being said, I was a studio owner. I choreographed before I was a studio owner. I had served as a competition judge. I was a competitive dancer myself. So I did understand, the value or the perceived value of what was happening. So I said, we need to do like a really intensive, like 2 years
Mm,
observation, exploration. We need to notate every single client concern,
mm,
what's in our control, what's beyond our control, what's reflecting on us that's not in our control. And then at the end of the 2 years, I was so confident that we had to step away.
mm.
But now confidence not the same as not being scared, because I was scared. I was scared and I was anxious, and when I talk about this a lot, the crazy thing is sometimes we wait so long until we get to where the pain is intolerable to make a change. And the
Mm,
one thing that I tell people now is be proactive, right? Like if there is something that is not true to you and not true to your vision and your authentic self, go ahead and take those steps to get back to your clearer path for purpose. So we made the move, and it was terrifying, and it was not instantly successful. And I felt like an imposter in the industry for several years because a lot of people tie their valuation and their success to this competitive dance experience, especially if you're like a non-classical conservatory.
mm,
So how would we be seen? And I remember I was speaking at a conference in 2018, and I was so nervous when I got off the plane because I was like, this is my first time being around dance people. We hadn't been in competition for several years. Like, what would I be seen as?
mm,
And, in speaking, I was nervous, which is unusual for me. And in the hallway, a lady came up to me and she said, I wish that I could be brave enough to do what you've done.
mm,
And she had tears in her eyes because she felt like she would lose every single client. And I didn't get her name. I don't even know where she's from, but that stayed with me. And that's actually why I wrote Trash the Trophies, because I was like,
mm,
if this inner turmoil and conflict that I experienced could help one other person, um, let's get this message out there. And then, of
mhm,
course, it came out in August 2020, which
mhm.
there was a lot of other stuff going on then. um, and,
Oh,
and
Lord, I know.
and so it kind of had this quiet entrance. But what's happened, in this last kind of 15 to 18 months has been really remarkable as other studios are making this intentional shift to be more true to what they want from their programming. And I think that's very exciting. And, one thing I always like to say is that I'm not anti competition. Like, I'm a believer in competition that's meaningful and purposeful and that has a strong return on investment.
Mhm,
Um, and the space as it exists right now, I couldn't justify that in 2015. And something that is so affirming is those chat boards that you were talking about, the concerns that are
mhm,
addressed. It's like a checklist of what I put in the book. And it was
mhm.
happening in 2015. It happened, when I was still writing the book in 2018, and it's still happening today. So there's something that has to be said for if change isn't happening, like we have to be the change.
I'm so glad that you said that because I think as an industry, this might ruffle some feathers, y'all, but I think as an industry, we are very slow to change, actually. And we're slow to make decisions. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to sit back and to do exactly what you did, to track the data, to make an informed decision, right? But I think sometimes that we sit into indecision so long because of fear.
No, Erin, you're right. Like my one regret is that I waited so long to make that change. But I took those 12 steps when we had to flip our program from in-person to digital in March of 2020, and that was 48 hours. So you're right. Like, we can't be so scared that we just it's like going from CDs to streaming. Like, CDs are done. They're done.
I can't let you hear my husband say that, because we literally were just having this conversation, because he's like, I think it's time for you to get a new car. Now, my car is not old, y'all. My car is what? I mean, well, I guess it's considered. It's 2014, 15, I don't know, something like that. It's not super old. That being said, I use it a lot. I drive around, so, probably it's time. So we're looking at new vehicles, and we get in one, and there's no CD player. And I was like, we're not getting this car. And he was like, are you serious? I was like, I am dead serious. I need a CD player. He was like, babe, CD players are done. I was like, then we can't get a brand new car.
That is hysterical. We had to take a CD as a backup to a festival we were performing in a few months ago. And I asked my staff, I said, who has a drive to like burn a CD?
Me.
Like, do we even have CDRs?
Me, this girl. I do.
I appreciate the purist, but I do always tell people, I'm like, we moved beyond CDs, so we can move. We moved past cassette, CD. There you go.
So you guys know, I have both. I do utilize streaming services. But it's always, I'm a backup. I want a backup plan. And, I have that favorite mixed CD from like 2000. Who doesn't want to still use that mixed CD? Lord Jesus. Anyway, so not to like go totally off track, but yes, sometimes we're slow to change. We're set in our ways. And that's okay. But I know that we cannot sit in this like tornado of that inner turmoil, because if it comes down to feeling like you're not in alignment with your core values and you've somehow deviated, right? There is still a path back home. And I think sometimes we feel like we made this decision to go into competition, and so that's where we have to stay. Well, if it doesn't feel right to you, and it's not feeling right to maybe a lot of your clients, maybe it's time to make that shift. And so I wanted to kind of go over a couple different ways that if they're struggling with either A, do I start a competition team, right? Or B, I've started one, but I don't know that I want to stay here, right? How do we kind of go through and evaluate what's the right path for me? And y'all, if you have a competition teams right now, if you're currently running them, let us know in the comments below. We would love to know, so we know where you're at. Are you currently you're competing, maybe a little bit? I have some clients who are like, oh, we only do maybe 3 or 4 a year, not super heavy, but just a little bit of experience. I have some other clients who are like, we go all in, we do nationals, we do the whole thing, we're very heavy. And then I have some who are like, no, we're not going to do any. So I want to know where y'all are at. Let us know in the comments. But so what would be something that you would say to help them evaluate, is this the right path for me?
Yeah, so I think step one is thinking about your resource investment, right? And your profitability. So I love the Pareto Principle, which, discusses like the investment of what you are expending your energy towards. So if you have a team and it's not profitable, and those numbers do matter because we are in business and revenue is important.
Hold on, y'all. If you don't know, it's something about me. I'm like, you can have passion and you can have profit. That's why I wrote the Passion and Profit Project, because you can have both, and those numbers matter. We are in business to make money, y'all. Period. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it is important. And that is something that needs to be shouted from the rooftops, because we have the opportunity to shift this industry. It has been viewed historically as more of a hobby industry, a passion industry, but it does not have to be like, we can be big business, and that should excite us. And that's how I approach the work that I do. So with that being said, Erin, yes, so the Pareto Principle. So for example, that would be 80% of your time and energy might serve 20% of your clients. So that's going to create this dynamic that you don't really want because you're not going to achieve your peak profitability and revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that also being said, if you have a 500-person team and you've kind of figured out, how to tweak this and play this, that's another conversation. But I know for me, our team was not profitable. And one of the issues that I ran into is the invoices that would be sent to people for costumes, for workshop fees, competition fees. They add up. There's so much. And you basically are a purveyor of those fees. So you're endorsing an event that you're funneling this money towards. The parent who is the client doesn't necessarily understand that that revenue is not going towards you. They don't understand how much of that is pushed out. So that's why the stress, the negativity, and the feedback, the valuation is going to fall back on your studio versus the competition. And that's why I ultimately said I can't allow my valuation to be in the hands of a third-party deregulated industry in which I have no control. Now, with that 80-20 principle, there's also the thought of, why? What's the why? What's the vision? What's the concept? And some people, I feel like, try to dip a toe into the competition and say they're not competitive. But it's I do believe you have to stand firm in where you stand, and people respect that more than anything. And that was something that I was nervous about making the move, but it's something that I've learned on the other side, is that you are going to develop the culture that you want by staying committed to the vision that you have. And it's if this is something you want out of, doing one competition with solos is not the answer. You have to go all in to where you stand.
And I think that's because it goes back to the thing, you have to go all in, and you have to stand. It all goes back to, what are your values and your vision for your studio and for your business? And if it's out of alignment in one area, that totally rocks the whole studio culture, and it's a ripple effect, and it makes it feel disjointed. And then if we were to go into branding and things, and your brand story, it's not in alignment, it's conflicting. And a lot of times when that happens, and I have clients where we're coming in and we're doing audits, and we see their brand story is conflicted because they're operating over here and they're doing this, but it really doesn't feel like they want it to feel inside their studio. And they're like, well, but we have this over here because that's what I felt like we had to do to be, competitive in our community as far as, getting students and things. I'm like, no, you need to stay true. Stand your ground, stand up. This is what I believe in. And this is how we move forward and create the best experience for my ideal client.
Exactly. And that's not everyone. It's truly not. And there's so much power in identifying your perfect client and then achieving that community of perfect clients. And that's so important. And it does take time to identify and say, hey, this isn't probably going to be the best place for you. And that's okay.
100%.
There's power in that. And one of the biggest questions that I get is, didn't you lose your whole team? And it's true. Our team went from 55 to 13 that first year. It was a huge drop. We lost staff. We lost all of the things that keep people up at night. But the reassuring thing is, in that following season, our overall enrollment increased 25%. And that's a rocket number. That's not the typical season to season growth that you would see. So we knew that we were on the right track. And even in this last season, this year, which we still consider kind of a COVID season because it's still been weird, our intensive training program has remained larger than our competitive program ever was for 2020, 2021, and 2022. And I think that's pretty remarkable and is a testament to what parents are looking for if it falls in alignment with what you think your business leadership values are as well.
100%. And that, congratulations. That makes my heart so happy. I know change is scary. And anytime we go through and we have those moments of, okay, whether it's changing your tuition structure, which we deal with a lot, I know it can be scary, but numbers don't lie. Well, let me rephrase that. Numbers don't lie if you put in the right numbers. Right? So what you put in is going to tell you the truth. But also going back to data, we have to make data driven decisions, right? And sometimes we will make decisions based on feelings and not facts. And
Ego is a big feeling.
and the stories that we tell ourselves, like I'm going to lose everybody, or all those sort of things. Now, the other part is that coming into it knowing that you might lose a few, but it's okay because you're really working toward the grander and bigger vision of what could be for you. And I say all the time, I'm not everybody's cup of tea because not everybody's mine. And so it goes back to the same thing with your clients, right? You might not be the right fit. And it's okay to say, like you said, that, you know what, if this is what you're looking for, you might want to go over here because I know that's what they excel in. That's okay. There's more than enough for everybody. There's more than enough for everybody. So, okay, I love that. So those are kind of some of the ways to identify. And I think one of the big things that I was going to say, just as you did, was if you're looking at your client base and 20% of those clients are taking up 80% of your time and your joy and the space, energetic space, then you might want to reevaluate that, right?
And
Yeah, go
I was
ahead.
speaking to someone last week and she was sharing, they're moving out of competition. And she shared that one weekend, they had 15 minutes of actual routines, right? Because your routines are only 2 or 3 minutes
Yeah,
each. So 15 minutes of onstage performance time stretched into a 30-hour weekend commitment. So if you could take back those 29 hours and 45 minutes, like what could you do not only to focus on your business but to refresh and re-energize yourself and fuel that fire and passion? I think burnout is a big kind of just like nation, global conversation right now. Um and for your dancers too, like maybe that's not the healthiest best use of their time, and we're trusted with the decisions that we make for our clients. They're leaning on us and our endorsements, and it's our duty to guide them in the way that we best see fit. So we have to make sure that we feel confident in our justifications of what we choose to do.
100%. And so I think these are really great ways to go through. And y'all, I have my book. And I have read it from cover to cover, and I really loved how you dove into to depth some of the checklists and things. And so, y'all, I will be dropping the link if you guys haven't read Trash the Trophies yet. Definitely want to take a look at that. I think I'm a big proponent of continuing education, whatever that looks like. Sometimes it's through reading. Sometimes it is through like you said, maybe instead of spending 30 hours at a comp, right? Maybe I take that time and go do some continuing education for me and my staff. And what is that going to do for them? Right? Maybe it's, yes, I focus and we do, I go on a retreat and I learn how can we, do better in our business. Like there's so many different things that you can do with that time, y'all. And if it really isn't bringing your heart joy, right? All the areas doesn't bring you joy, is it worth doing?
I mean,
So
I believe that time is your most valuable resource. Like we only get so much. Money can be replaced, time cannot. So we have to say how are we spending our time? And for us, for our families, they're so much happier doing a community performance that takes up an hour or two, and
mhm,
then going to dinner with friends, or the staff gets to go home and have dinner with their families. It's a much more balanced situation than
right.
what we experienced previously.
So if someone was thinking about moving away and trying their hands in maybe like a performance
Mhm.
company instead, or like, what are some of the things that you think they could possibly include in building out this program that your families are finding that they really enjoy in lieu of competitions?
Yeah, so I am a huge proponent that studios offer an elevated dance education experience for those
Mhm.
that do want to pursue it at a higher level. Doesn't
Mhm.
have to be through competition. That's just one channel option. So what we did is we created an intensive training program, and we determined 4 values that everything would kind of tie into, which were technique, performance, community, and character. So it started with the intensive training program, but now those values are widespread through the whole institution.
Mhm.
And everything has to tie back to every single one of those 4 things. So we capstone it each year with a philanthropic benefit show.
Mhm.
And we had our 5th one on April 30th. And in 5 years time, instead of all of this money going to comps, we've donated 65,000 plus back to local nonprofits that all serve a story within our community. So the
Mhm.
kids are pitching these organizations, so they're learning to use their arts in a way that is tangible, real world,
Mhm.
project management, executive functioning, things that parents do want to sink their teeth into. Yes, they want their kids to have a skill and they want them to be good at the skill,
Right.
but past the skill, they want them to be incredible and amazing humans that can be competitive in life. And I think that's the priority. And we do that through leadership. We do travel experiences, whether it's like New York or DC.
Mhm.
We do festivals of dance with our the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. And our dancers are performing on average 4 to 5 times per semester at no cost, which is more than they performed at no cost for the performance. They obviously pay for their lessons. I wanted to clarify that
Sure.
because
Sure.
profit, don't forget that.
Yes.
And the revenue is staying now more in-house under the roof.
Mhm.
So then you're going to start seeing your revenue increase and increase and
Mhm.
increase. And if you read the stats about female business owners, a lot of times female business owners get safer in kind of that lower end revenue, but we can push, we can go, we can break 500,000, we can hit 1 million.
Yeah.
The sky is the limit. But think about all of that money that you're pushing out that you could be keeping in, giving your staff more opportunities, building the leadership in your institution. And I think that was kind of the most eye-opening piece for me, was the potential that I wasn't cultivating under my own roof that I started
Mhm.
cultivating when we made the shift.
I love that. And I think that yes, there's so many different ways to layer in, and there's so many opportunities out there that we can, if we just think outside the resin box for a moment, right? Y'all, like if we just think outside the box, how can we shift and create something that still provides the performing aspect? Because we know if we do our list of pros and cons, I always tell my clients, like, go back to that simple pros and cons list. What are the good things about having a competitive team? What are the things that are concerns or that maybe aren't your funnest things, right? And if we can look at, okay, all the pros, what are the pros? And like you said, it's more of what are they learning through being a team, through going and performing? What it like, those are the pieces that we could still utilize and leverage inside, whether it's an intensive training, company, whether it's a performance company, right? That how do we look at this and build out something that feels in alignment and feels like you're hitting all the highs but leaving out the lows? And yes, you can absolutely be profitable at it and you can keep more money in house. And it goes, I feel like, also goes back to that mentorship, like you said, of not only for our students but for our staff.
Building
What?
the loyalty, getting people to buy in and subscribe. Because the thing is, these weekend events, they don't run your day to day. Like,
Mm-mm.
need the bread and butter under your roof, believing in your culture, subscribing to it. Um, and there were concerns when we did the initial shift of, well, am I going to get to choreograph? Once a lot of it's education, right? Educating staff, educating parents, explaining
Mhm.
the vision and saying, like, this is just a piece that we're removing, but we're actually going to rev it up even more.
Right.
Um, and it's exciting. And once everybody gets excited, that's when it gets really fun.
Right. Yes. So I think that is key. If you are excited about it and you're sharing and you're educating
Mhm.
why it's such a big deal to, we're just removing this little piece over here, but we're replacing it with all of this.
All of
And
this, all
all
of
of
this,
this,
and it's so
right?
big and it's so amazing and it's going to be the best thing ever. And there's so much negativity, right, towards
Mhm.
people choosing to participate in competitions.
Mhm.
And I think if people could just have this paradigm shift of if we could just extract that negativity and replace that energy into something
Mhm.
positive and forward, because it's keeping people stuck or it's making people move backwards in their businesses, which they may not
Mhm.
realize. And I was one of those people, so I can say that we were stuck for a period of time because we weren't sure where we were going. And I
Mhm.
wasn't like I wasn't putting my frustrations on a chat board, but I was internally experiencing them. And I just caution everyone to not allow yourselves to be stuck or to move
Mhm.
backwards because you're in this flux.
Mhm. And I think sometimes it goes back to that like clarity piece in that we do have to do the work and really dialogue not only with ourselves, but that's where having a great community that values your input as well as you value theirs and being able to use them as a springboard for conversation. Sometimes that's exactly what you need for the clarity,
Yeah.
right?
And
And
we all we know right now is change. Like it is a time that is ripe for making change. In 2015, that wasn't necessarily the case. Like everyone was just kind of cruising. Um,
mhm,
but right now, like this is an amazing time
yes,
to rock the boat, change the model.
reinvent.
Hmm.
Reinvent what it is that you really want to see because each person has their own unique vision of success and it's really up to you to decide what that looks like and then have the courage to move in alignment and to take those steps to really put yourself toward that. But if you're worried about rocking the boat or if you're worried about what everyone else is doing and having comparisonitis and all of that, you're never going to feel like you're going to get to that place that's an authentic place for you and for your studio and what your vision is. And so I think that, yeah, right now, if it's something that's been on your heart and you've been struggling with, it's time to really take a great look at that. And so I'm sure you wouldn't mind for them to connect with you like on
I
social
would
media.
love, yeah.
Okay.
There
What's
aren't a whole lot of Chastas, so I'm pretty easy to find.
right? And do you have one place that you like hang out more? Is it Facebook? Is it Insta? I mean, like, do you have a
I'm still straddling Facebook and Insta just because I have a lot of different people on both platforms.
right?
So
Okay.
I double dip.
You double dip. You have one toe. You have one foot in the Facebook pool and one
Yeah.
foot in the Instagram pool.
I'm over in the meta universe.
Right. Even though it's all the same, right?
I
Like it's
know.
all run by the same, but hey. Okay, so that's really awesome. Like I said, I will be dropping in below the link for the book. And y'all, if you have questions, I would love for you to drop them here. We'll come back and answer them for you as well. And I want to finish off with saying that we both are not anti-competition in that if you're having a competitive team or if that's the place that you want to be, like more power to you, right? And if it's fulfilling um your needs and your clients' needs and your students' needs, then like that's the place for you. But I think that for me, really having this conversation was more of about that's not the only way to be successful in our industry.
And I've actually had a lot of people reach out to me that have read the book
Mhm.
that are still competing, but said it just helped them, shift their perspective and their focus on their
Mm,
weekends to go into it with a little more intentional understanding of what's happening. And I've heard that from both parents and studio owners and instructors and
mhm,
choreographers. And our teens actually created a teen discussion guide, which is great to implement. It's on my website, which is just chastahamilton.com. But they wrote it completely unguided with a separate facilitator, not myself. And it was a lot of really great questions about
mhm,
competition that can be applied to dance or
mhm.
college scholarships, all
Right.
of these things, job interviews. How can we get ourselves in a strong headspace?
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
And I think that it's something that we need to be discussing with our dancers, right? And so um, I'm so thankful for you coming on and
Yeah,
spending
thank you for
this
having
time with
me.
us this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at in the world. We have people all over the place that are tuning in. And so I would like to just say thank you again. And y'all, we are here to support you guys. And so if you're starting to think about this, if you want to continue the discussion, I know that both of us are willing to come in and just continue the conversation because that is where change happens in open dialogue. If we're only having it internally, sometimes it's longer for us to really come and have that point of clarity. But when others are having this discussion and looking for an actual solution to the problem, because there's a difference between just, I mean, I don't want to say complaining and whining, but are you looking for a solution? Right? And so I'm all about solutions based. We are problem solvers and everything is figure outable. And so that's where we're coming from. It's like, if you think and you're struggling with it, let's just have a conversation about it and see, you know, where your path is really taking you. And so thank you so much for joining us. I've loved chatting and I could sit here and probably talk all day with you. But I know that right now it's crazy. And I
Yes.
value everyone's time because we are all banana pants right now.
We all got to get back to the checklist.
We're like, oh, okay, moving back over. So thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Erin. It's really been a joy.
Oh, I absolutely adore our time here. My friends, thank you. My friends, I did want to let you know that we are going to be, I've been having a lot of people come to me and say, Erin, I'm thinking about the fall, which makes my heart happy because you're being proactive, right? That makes my heart happy. And this is, I really feel like to have a successful season next year, I need to get some things together. And I really want to get some systems in place, but I don't know how to even start because I feel like everything's up here and it's just quicker for me just to do it than to put it down on paper and to create a system. I don't know how to do that and it's going to take me more time. And so what I've decided to do is next week I'm going to be running a free training on how to create simple and sustainable systems in your business, right? Without spending a ton of extra time. I'm going to share with you my ninja tips on how to create systems simply while you're doing them, y'all. And especially if you suffer from the, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do the system, and then all of a sudden you feel like you have like writer's block. I'm going to share with you how to create these easily. So if you want more information on that free training that's going to be going down next week, drop a systems below in the chat and we will get you more information on that. It's a totally laid back training style that we've come up with, which a lot of, I'm getting a lot of great feedback on where it's just simple, short little snippets inside Messenger, and you can come back and watch them whenever you have a moment. So in the comments below, drop a systems if you would like more information on how to do that and that training that's coming up for free later on this month, next week. I would love to know. And so, my friends, until next week, I want you to lean into joy, lean into the fact that I know we're all crazy right now, but you get to decide, how you show up, right? You get to decide. And so, yes, this can be a busy time of year, but the truth of the matter is that it's all going to be okay. And it's all going to work out. And it's going to be beautiful and just fine. So I will see you all next Wednesday, same time, same place, right? And we are going to be diving into another business strategy that we have for increasing your revenue as you're moving into the summer and to the new year. So I cannot wait to talk with you all about that. Until then, my friends, thank you so much for joining us for the Erin Burd live show. And I will see you all very, very soon next week.